I should be like you, Mel.
Ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the TalkSport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search TalkSport Fan Network.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Hello, welcome back to Cherry AM. And it wouldn't be Cherry AM. I know you was missing him yesterday without Mr. Ollie Hudson. How you doing, Ollie?
Good morning, mate. Yeah, not too bad, thank you. I'm really glad to be back after missing it yesterday, funnily enough.
Definitely, mate, definitely. And to be honest, we didn't have much to speak about yesterday, to be honest, but we do today. So everybody stay keep your eyes peeled, I should say, or if you're listening back on Spotify, keep your ears peeled. But we do have quite a few people in the chat already. We've got Paul from Oz. How you doing, Paul? He said, hi guys, good morning. Another Paul that said, good morning, everyone. Does anyone know when work will start on the stadium? Interesting one, isn't it? I don't know whether or not the planning permission has been all granted, or whether, how that all works. I've got to be perfectly honest, Paul. But my thought process is, of course, the first stand they'll probably do is this head shed. And like you might have seen from the Manchester United Stadium, they can bring it in bits. So they probably knock down the head shed and then bring it in bits. If that's going to happen this summer, it'd be interesting to see. But, we might all be sitting in a new stand, or, me, Matt,
I
Sam.
think there's been a big focus on the training facility, right? So
yeah.
I think it wouldn't make sense developing, what was that, 32 million or something in that ballpark for the training facility. So
yeah.
I think it'd be crazy chaos trying to work both of them at the same time in two different areas.
100%.
Yeah,
I think we've got another year of the current TED shed, and you know what? I'm going to miss it when it's gone, but it does need replacing. Anybody who sits in the north stands, you've got a bit of luxury compared to what we have. But hey, it's all right, especially on a wet, blistering night. In the middle of November, where it's chucking it down. Going in the tent for your beer. Yeah, it's interesting. We've also got Paul commenting here. Kepa plus Dino, Milos and possibly Zabani are going. Not impressed. Well, we've got plenty of time, Paul. And what we're going to do is discuss some players coming in, but of course, players that we know very, very well. So we'll discuss that coming back to the club effectively. Remember when Dino and Milos suspended for the FA Cup game against City? We didn't look safe at the back at all. To be honest, though, we was good going forwards in that game. But yeah, I think you have got a point there as well, Paul. But Iriola and Frano and Pinto, they've all got a little bit of work to do just to shore up those gaps. Joe Davidson, UTC, IAD, loving this morning show, lads. Thank you so much for being here, Joe. Always a pleasure, mate. Chris has said morning, Craig and Ollie. And we've also got Malcolm. Good morning, Craig and Ollie. And thank you so
Morning, Mel.
much for your messages as well, Malcolm. Always appreciated, mate. Thank you so much. So yeah, Malcolm was brilliant yesterday. When he sent the message to, I really do appreciate that. But I tell you what, let's get on to our subject. And Ollie, what is the subject today?
Yeah, so quite an interesting one from my side of my point of view. Players who have been loaned out by AFC Bournemouth, who have all been coming back to Bournemouth this month, so June 2025. There's quite a list. There's quite a list of them, so we won't go through all of them. But yeah, there's some good ones there, right?
There certainly is, mate. There certainly is. And I tell you what, let's just touch quickly on the youngsters. We've got Finn Tonks was on loan at Farnborough, Lewis Brown on loan at Salisbury, Johnny Suttle on loan at Aldershot, Gregory was on loan at Salisbury, Billy Terrell was on loan at Weymouth. So that really covers the youngsters as it is. Of course, everybody else we'll cover in a little bit of detail at the very least. But where shall we start? Where do you want to start, Ollie?
Well, I think considering the previous question started with Kepa, why don't we start with Neto coming back in?
Yeah, very interesting actually. Neto, of course, Neto was on loan at Arsenal's Emirates Stadium last season, and he played one game for them. Probably what he expected, to be perfectly honest, but it was always a weird one for me, this, wasn't it? And why he would go on loan to a club like Arsenal, who, in David Raya, you expected, you couldn't see him breaking through at all, could you?
No. I think he was obviously kept there as a backup, wasn't he?
Yeah.
It was very clear. I think he may have gone to try and be exposed to maybe more game time, maybe more cup time. Maybe thought he may have got a few more run-outs in some of the cup games. I'm not sure. It didn't quite go his way, did it?
No. And it's a shame. I like Neto. He is at the tail end of his career now. Goalkeepers can go into, early 40s, to be fair. It's one of those positions which, your playing career is prolonged a little bit more. But yeah, I think I knew he wasn't going to get much game time. He did play a Champions League match. He played that against Girona. And yeah, it's a real shame, considering what he had done previously for this football club, and the minutes that he had played. And do you think? Can you see the club keeping hold of Neto, considering Kepa's gone back? Arsenal seem to want Kepa themselves now. So they've got a habit of signing ex-Bournemouth goalkeepers, albeit Kepa is really a Chelsea goalkeeper. But can you see Neto really staking a claim, or do you think his time at Dean Court is over?
So two-pronged answer. I do think that Neto's time at Bournemouth is coming to an end. There's someone else that we'll come on to in a moment, Mark Travers. He's also making a return. So I think if we're struggling between two different keepers, it will be Mark Travers that we keep over Neto. Touching on that a bit further, I don't think Kepa will go. So I think in that sense, will we even need either of them? But I definitely don't think we'll keep Neto, in my opinion.
Do you know what? I think that's a very good point, because with Kepa, and there's been loads and loads of talk about Arsenal wanting him. The thing is that is he really going to get any game time at Arsenal at all? He's probably going to get the odds, off the bench. You cannot see him becoming a regular and dispositioning David Raya. So why would he not want to come back to Bournemouth, where he will be playing week in, week out? Because he's still got a lot of time on his hands. He is a goalkeeper that Iriola wants because he can play out from the back.
Yeah, thoroughly agree. However, the only big red flags I see is the big 35 circling around him. 35 years old, when you're bringing him back into a club that is trying to be young and youthful and play from the younger ranks. I just don't think it'd fit into what we've got and the squad dynamics at the moment, which is a shame. He was a high-ranking international Brazilian goalkeeper. 15 years ago, 14 years ago. So, but I think we have to understand from Neto's point of view, where does he want to go? Well, what is it that he's wanting? Is he grasping onto some last-ditch effort at some Premier League football, or is he just wanting some game time? In which case, should he go to the Championship?
Well, the other thought is, he could look at the lower end of the Premier League, but to be honest, even the lower end of the Premier League for next season look like they've got the goalkeeping department sorted right out.
You know what? I was watching the Wrexham programme last night, catching up on a bit of that, and I was in season 3. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone because we're already a season ahead now. So this was 2 seasons ago when they signed Okonkwo from Arsenal, development keeper. And I see Neto go into maybe a team like that. They've got money behind them. They've got a bit of energy and a bit of oomph behind them. He'd get game time because he's an exciting player. As you said, he can still play out from the back. He'd fit into a squad like that. So it just depends on what he wants, right?
100%. And Paul's just reminded me something here. I do know the game, and I remember this game because I'm sat right in front of this goal when Neto played the ball to Philip Billing to give an easy goal. It wasn't Burnley, it was actually Wolves that happened against. But yeah, it was in that spell when Iriola was struggling to get his first win. But yeah, it was quite frustrating to watch. Of course, under Gary O'Neill as well. I should hasten to add. So, of course, Gary's first visit back to Dean Court. I definitely think Kepa will stay, said the other Paul Sands. So, yeah, I think you might be right. And Malcolm's put, the keeper situation is interesting. Guess we have to wait and see how it pans out. Yeah, most definitely. And I think the thing is it's kind of a juggling act because, Neto at his twilight years will probably want to get a move so he can play regular football. He might go back to Brazil. But one person that will definitely want minutes, and he did get minutes for this team, is Mark Travers. And of course, Middlesbrough. Mark played 17 times for the Borough. He's a goalkeeper that I've always really liked. And I'm kind of frustrated for him. I think everybody knows I'm frustrated for him that he doesn't actually get the game time at AFC Bournemouth because I just really like the guy. I just really like his whole attitude, his whole demeanor, how he approaches the game. He's not a goalkeeper that plays out from the back. I think that's half the problem, but he is a great shot stopper, as we saw against Manchester City when they come down here, saving that ball from close range from Erling Haaland. Hey, he's an excellent goalkeeper, but Mark Travers, do you think he has to move on, especially if Kepa comes in? And what do you make of his loan move at Middlesbrough?
It's a tough one, right? So I think his loan spell at Middlesbrough was mediocre at best. I think that he had some great games, but the overall performance of the team obviously didn't make him shine, right? However, the games that he had, as you briefly mentioned, before Kepa came in, he really made an impact, right? He had some fantastic saves. He had some amazing games, and it almost felt unfair to give that position to Kepa. I'm struggling to remember the game before that decision was made, but he made a couple of fantastic saves literally the day before Kepa was appointed. And it was almost like he didn't quite deserve that yet because you were working to
I think it was when Kepa had that injury, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to pull back some information eventually and figure that out. But there was a specific game where Mark Travers was just on fire. There was no getting the ball past him in the back of that net. And then that following week, we appointed Kepa, and it was a shame. It was a real shame. So I'd like to see Mark Travers back at the club. Even if he's just a backup goalkeeper, we have him and Kepa. Which I think would make sense. But Mark Travers wants game time, doesn't he? So he's not going to sit for that.
Definitely, and he's been at the club now almost 10 years as well. So he will want the game time. I think if he wants the regular game time, and he wants Premier League football, he's probably, and I know this sounds awful, because I think he's good enough to play in the Premier League as a first-team goalkeeper for somebody, but to dislodge any goalkeeper, I think he's going to have to go into the Championship for a team that are fighting to get promoted, like Middlesbrough, and get promoted with them. So, yeah, I think that is one thing to keep in mind. We do have Mr. Matthew Harrison in as well, and he's just made it clear: Highlanders to Seasiders, a cherry picking special with Matt and Johnny Blair. Matt and Johnny pick an all Cherries Scotland squad. It's coming this week. Hit the bell and you know when it's out. You'll have to subscribe to hit the bell, but go do it now. And there we are. That's Mr. Matthew Harrison. How you doing, Matt? Hope you're doing well this bright and sunny morning. We do have another couple of comments as well. They're coming in thick and fast. Big profit with Mark coming through the youth system if he goes. Yes, but how much is he going to go for? Do we have to tie him down for a bit of a longer contract, then sell?
Again, I think it depends. I think we're a club, right, that don't necessarily orchestrate our decisions based on what only we want, do we? So a lot of our decisions come down to working with the players, understanding their needs and what they want out of the coming season. So it's going to come down to, I think, exactly what Mark Travers wants, isn't it? If he does go, I think he'd go, again, depending who to, maybe 5 to 10 mil, maybe 7, 8 million, which, again, is good. It's good profit considering he's been with us 10 years. So we can't complain at that, but it would be sad to see him go for me.
100%. Here we are. Here's a nice rumour. Well, an interesting rumour. Hello to Vish this morning. He said, "Morning, Craig and Ollie. Please talk about Portugal's Nations League win." We will touch on that very, very briefly. And CR7, if anybody is not aware, Cristiano Ronaldo potentially joining the Cherries. Firstly, the Portugal Nations League win. I've got to be honest, when I watched this game, it was an evenly paced game. And as much as Dean Howsam, it would have been great to see him win something. Honestly, this might actually open up the World Cup because Spain had so much momentum after the Euros. They have been absolutely unbelievable. Lamine Yamal and players like that, really, really, really hitting their pace. I thought that they were quite unstoppable. And then Portugal's gone and shown how you do stop them. So maybe it's going to add that little bit of self-doubt in there to, hopefully. You never know. Could England actually win the World Cup? I think that's for another day. But Cristiano Ronaldo joining AFC Bournemouth, do you think it'll ever happen?
No, I think just touching on CR7 for you, Vish. Outstanding, right? The fact that he can still go to huge finals, huge tournaments and still absolutely perform and score goals rather than kind of cling on to the last bits of professional football at his age is outstanding. He is not just running around that pitch aimlessly like you see some players when they get to his age. He's still orchestrating. He's still better than most people on that pitch. And I just think, it's just a fantastic thing to see. I love it. I love to watch it. It's amazing.
The man's just a machine, isn't he? He just is a machine. He just will not stop
unfortunately,
going.
I don't think he'll be joining the Cherries. I have just done a quick search, and there is zero speculation around that, unfortunately.
Fish is just creating some speculation. I'll get on to Mark McAdam. Is this happening? I think we know what the answer is there. But no, good to have you with us, Fish, and that's put a smile to our faces. Malcolm put, I would have Travis back if Keba does move on. He can learn the way to play Andoni once if his mind is on it. Malcolm said morning to Matt. Poor Mr. Cucurella, says Paul from Oz. And we've also got Tommy in the room. Hello, Tommy. Hope you're doing well, mate. And he says morning. So, any more incomings to AFCB, Ollie? I'm sure that we will cover some off, but in due course. But I don't think there's much happening really at the moment.
No. I think on Friday we've got another update. I've heard some more news about Zabani, but I'll let that stew a little bit over the next couple of days to see if it's confirmed and true before we announce some stuff on the show. So we can give some more updates on Friday for ins and outs for sure.
Definitely. It is silly season after all. And just to quickly finish off on Mark Travers, 20 goals conceded. Middlesbrough did miss out on the playoffs, unfortunately. Led to Michael Carrick being sacked as well. 4 clean sheets. Of course, 1 clean sheet for AFC Bournemouth. And 5 goals conceded, 5 appearances. So he's a very, very good goalkeeper. I would like to see him get more game time. I'd like him to be number 1, but I'm not Andoni Iraola, so we trust in Andoni. I tell you what, let's go to somebody who maybe is a little bit different. Let's talk about Hamid Traore. Somebody who, when he come to Bournemouth, when I watched him in his first game, I'm trying to think of who it was against. I think actually he played in that 1-0 win against Liverpool. Anybody who's in the comments who can confirm that and confirm that I'm right or wrong, please do. But he was outstanding. He looks, so skillful, could run through the middle, was a real threat. I remember, I think he had a great match against Leeds as well, when we absolutely battered and relegated them. There was a little bit of a revenge for 1990 there. But Hamid Traore has never really found his footing and has never really been fancied by Andoni Iraola. Firstly, Ollie, why do you think that is? And secondly, do you think that we've seen the last of him in a Bournemouth shirt?
No, I don't think that's the last we've seen of him, and I'll come back to that in a second. I don't think that he has. I don't think he's fit into the squad dynamics yet. I think there's a way that Bournemouth play, and there is a team essence that Bournemouth have when working together, and the fluidity that we've built up as a team. And I just don't think Traore fits into that yet. However, he's had spells at Italian clubs, at Empoli, Sassuolo, Napoli, and then more recently in the French league, where he had 26 matches and 10 goals.
Good return, actually.
Pretty good. 2 assists, 5 yellow cards. Shows that he's been pushing, he's been pressuring, he's been attacking, he's been on the case there, clearly. So it would be interesting to see if he's able to come back in and have an impact or have an input, maybe falling in behind Evan Nilsson, feeding out to the wing. But it'd be interesting to see if that's something that Iraola can input into the team.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think, he is what I would call a luxury player. He's a player that, I think he's going to struggle to go into most teams. He is very, very skillful. He's got something. It's very true.
He's had experience and exposure too. He's played in the Champions League. He's had a couple of games in the Champions League, a couple of games in the Euros. He's played for Ivory Coast. He's had 2 appearances for Ivory Coast. So he's played at essentially all levels. So there isn't really any reason why we shouldn't be trying to utilise him, technically.
Yeah, and it's a shame because he does seem a good lad on the surface. Of course, we don't know what happens behind closed doors, like everything. But here's what Paul from Oz has said: Traore left very quickly with no explanation, and yeah, that is very true. So, yeah, he seems to be doing quite a good job, but just not fancied at all by Areola. And it's a shame. It's a shame, but you never
Yeah.
know. Areola may find a place within his team. Might have to. Might have to, considering the tough summer that I think we're probably all consigned to us having. But yeah,
Yeah. And that brings me back, brings up the next one for me, because I want to get your
go
opinion on
for it.
him, is Max Aarons. So currently playing
Yeah,
right back at Valencia, right? The situation that we're in with our back line, is that someone who would continue to utilise? Is that someone who would send back out on loan? Do we see him back in the Bournemouth shirt? He only had 118 minutes in the Liga while he was over at Valencia, so he hasn't had much
yeah.
exposure or much game time. But do we see him back in the Bournemouth shirt, back at right back?
He's a really weird one for me. Now, the manager who is in charge of Valencia, Carlos Corberán, I've got a lot of time for him. I really do like Carlos Corberán as a manager, as a coach, as a person. Um, I just don't understand. I thought he was going to go there, and I thought that Max Aarons would actually get quite a lot of game time.
Yeah,
Really pick himself up. Build himself to where he needs to be, so he can come back and really stake a claim. It must be disheartening for Max Aarons when you have got Adam Smith in front of you, who is the wrong side of 30 and aging, has lost a bit of pace, but has been very adaptable. We've got to add that in there as well. You've also got Julian Arejo, who has just been signed as well, or signed last season. He's very pacey, but very, very raw. I don't think he reads the game very well. When both of those players were out, Max Aarons was available. Iriola decided to move Lewis Cook into the right back position. And that must be so disheartening for Max Aarons to actually think, what do I need to do to get a game? But it seems to be that Max Aarons can play in the Championship. He's got a lot of proven experience with Norwich City playing in the Championship. When he gets into the Premier League, okay, yeah, he did, play a fair few times for Norwich in the Premier League. Maybe he just goes missing a little bit. And I thought Valencia was a way of him coming back. But, effectively, it was 2 starts he had for Valencia, for Carlos Corberán's team. It was a wasted loan move, and personally, I really like the player. I know Matt really likes the player, but I think that Max Aarons, I think, is a goner. I think he will be sold to whoever we can recoup the most money from. And it's a shame. I just don't understand it. Paul from Oz said, "Didn't Saints want him?" I think we're talking about Max Aarons there.
yeah.
To be honest, I think he'd be quite a good signing for Southampton. To be fair,
I also think he would. Yeah, I think the Southamptons, the Ipswich, the Norwich, as you mentioned. I think that's where he sits. He's what do they call it? A paddle club, up and down, up and down, up and down. Premier League, Championship, Premier League, Championship, and he's 25, right? He's not made a huge impact at the moment. I agree with you and Matt. I like him as a player and as a guy. I think he's a Bournemouth player, but yeah, I think he's going to struggle to fit in unless he pulls something out of somewhere as a surprise and really starts performing. But I can't see it happening, which is a shame.
Yeah, definitely, and there we are.
I just wanted to speak about one more person before we close off, and that is
Go for it.
Meps, Chris Mepham.
Yes, Yes, of course.
Just before we
Chris
forget, yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic season at
He's
Sunderland.
had an outstanding season. And I didn't realise, it feels like he's been around for years, doesn't it, Chris Metham?
It does, yeah. It feels like he's been definitely in my life for a while.
Yeah. He's 27 years old, so he's probably at the twilight of his career. He's somebody who's come in for a lot of criticism at AFC Bournemouth. I think, some of that criticism is justified. I think some of it is unfounded. Um, I think a lot of it stems from that terrible decision, and he'll probably say it was a terrible decision himself. Against Brentford in the playoff semi-final at their new stadium, and where he wasn't it Brian and Mbeumo? He pulled him back and just got a straight red card, and it kind of changed the whole of that game, that whole tie. Like Paul says here, Meps played really well for Wales last night, no errors. With the players that are going, do we give Meps another chance?
I personally wouldn't.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter how much I like Meps and how much I want him to come back to Bournemouth. I think it'd be unfair of us to go, oh, now you might be at a chance where we can give you a second chance, but we're going to pull you out of Sunderland. I'm going to pull you out of the success that you've just had last season, and we're going to really throw a spanner in the works again. I don't think that would be fair for Meps. So, although, yes, I think a second chance would be deserved, the way he's performed last season, absolutely. And especially considering how we are looking moving into next season, I think we could use Meps in our team, in our squad. I don't think it'd be fair on him. I think let him go and play now. Let him go and spread his wings. Let him go, I think, would be my opinion.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you on that. I like the guy. He's been, a model professional throughout, and hey, sometimes things don't work out as you want them to. And Chris Metham, Malcolm's just said it here. Do you think Meps will sign for Sunderland? I think that's his best destination.
100%.
I think he'd be mad to go elsewhere because he knows that manager there. I'm trying to think of what his name is. He was at Lorient, wasn't he? Their manager, Reggie Labris. Reggie Labris. He was at Lorient. I think he got Lorient relegated. He was the one that got Lorient relegated. So a bit of a sideways move from Sunderland, but he's got Sunderland promoted. But yeah, I think that's his best destination. I honestly do.
Yeah, absolutely. And just doing a kind of brief search again, we'll come back into more of this probably on Friday with players going back out and coming in. But it looks like there are high talks from Sunderland and two other teams. So it looks like he's on the radar for a couple of teams now, which is good. It's awesome news.
Yeah, definitely. Another player though, very quickly, who was promoted. Actually two players that were promoted, who were out on loan last season as well. Firstly, let's talk about Jaden Anthony. I'm gutted. This man is gone. I'm gutted about it because he's a smashing guy. In fact, for the final game of the season against Leicester, he was down in the bar. I don't know if you've seen it, where he's down in the pints, and I think he was buying a fair few points for fans as well. So, but he's done all right, hasn't he? And I think he's found his home. He's back with Scott Parker, a manager who did trust in him throughout. And yeah, don't begrudge him that move at all, do you?
Nope, not at all. Not at all. And I had time for Scott Parker. Scotty Parker was always someone I liked. So why not? Good for them both. I'd like to see them both do really well. Jaden Anthony and Scott Parker.
8 goals, 7 assists. He's not done badly there at all. And somebody who was promoted from the Championship as champions as well, was Mr. Joe Rothwell, somebody who's overlooked a little bit by Bournemouth fans, I think, nowadays. But, he is a steady Championship player, 36 matches, scored, 4 assists, no goals. But, he really does help teams get out of that division. And, he's been quite successful in doing that. So, yeah, Joe Rothwell. What do you make of him? I think we've probably seen the last of Joe Rothwell in a Cherries
Yeah.
shirt. I don't think he's going to bridge that gap, into the Premier League. I don't think Leeds will probably want him in the Premier League. I think Leeds are probably going to spend the most out of all the promoted sides. But I can see him going back to the Championship and getting another team promoted, to be fair.
Yeah, possibly. Again, I see him as one of those Wrexham players, mate. I just see him as one of those specific kinds of characters that jumps into a team and is an absolute slogger, absolute warrior. Really, really just wants the best for the team that he goes into. And as you said, gets into promotion. And that seems to be his only goal, right? I don't think he'll stay with Leeds. I think you're right. Don't think he'll come back to Bournemouth. I think he will go back to the Championship. Maybe Ipswich.
Yes. Yeah, very true.
I think Ipswich could be a good shout for him. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Again, another one to keep an eye out because he's a great. In my opinion, he's a great player. He was a solid Bournemouth Championship player, right?
Yeah.
but thinking any further than that is not accurate for me.
And, Joe said here, sounds like a lot going on, but very quiet on the incomings. Of course, none of these players have left as yet, but of course, there is going to be quite a few of these leaving as well. And Paul said, Jade's got so much potential, which is very true. Just look, 4 last players, actually, that did have loan spells. We'll just breeze through them. Philip Billing, of course, was at Napoli, did get a winner's medal as well. Phil Bill, he's a confidence player. I think that, if his confidence goes down, like we've seen in the past, he's half the player, but, hopefully that'll buoy him up. But I think a move away from AFC Bournemouth is probably on the cards, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely.
We've also got a player who will definitely be making an appearance, I'm sure, next season, which is Krupi, early junior Krupi. Of course, was at Lorient. We signed him, sent him back on loan at Lorient, where he scored 13 goals in 13 games to repay them. And he's exciting. He's a right strong striker for only 18 years of age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. One to keep an eye on. I know that's one of Malk's favourites coming up, right? Malk's mentioned a couple of times, Krupi.
Yes.
I think this will be one. Club World Cup. What's this ratio?
Yeah. I don't understand this Club World Cup transfer window. I think it's absolutely stupid and it shouldn't have been allowed. I think it's absolutely ridiculous, to be fair. But it is what it is. Why are we making rules and why are we bending rules for the elite again? That's a whole different conversation. But yeah, Krupi, looks a very, very good prospect. And then we've got Alex Paulson, of course. This was a controversial move. It was signed from Wellington Phoenix by AFC Bournemouth, and we sent him straight on loan to Auckland FC. Of course, the new franchise team that was created by Bill Foley, who then went and won the league, although they didn't win the playoffs. And I think he's probably going to get another loan move, but I think it's key next time round to have a loan move into the Championship. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely would, yeah. Absolutely would. My head was just down because a few updates have come up on my phone for Bournemouth just now. Just in regards, I think we've officially signed Adrian Truffert, 17 million.
Excellent, good stuff.
And it also seems like We are looking to back John Lukumi.
Okay. So
And it looks like we're going for that as well.
Fantastic.
So just as a quick update for everyone wanting incomings, it looks like we are filling that back four pretty tightly.
I guess we can still sign them, and then they just officially join after this Club World Cup. At the end of the day, we're not in it, so it's really mad, to be fair. And here we are. Paul Sanders said the transfer window opens up halfway through the Club World Cup. So there we go. So I think we're going to round up there. I'm not going to go through Daniel Jebison's loan move to Watford because it was an absolute joke. We've seen a lot more from Daniel Jebison than Watford fans did. And yeah, to be fair, I just don't understand why that happened. But guys, Bournemouth players, if you want to go out on loan, don't go to Watford. There's the key. And just seen, I don't know what source this is from, Zabania is not going to PSG.
Yeah, so this was yet to be confirmed for Friday. It seems like PSG will not be overpaying in their words for Zabani, and it seems like we're asking for a fair amount. So
we bloody should. We should. So yeah, there we are. You can still discuss that on Friday, but Joe's just jumped the gun there. And Paul says, "Great show, lads. Good to talk. Thank you so much for checking us out." I think we'll wind it up there. We've been on for 40 minutes, which is a bit of a surprise this morning. But yes, please hit the like, subscribe, the bell button below. It helps this channel to grow. It really does. So we really do appreciate it. And also, all of these shows will be going up on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Podcast, wherever you listen to our Dorset tones. So yeah, do come check us out. Malcolm said, "Have a great day, everyone." Joe's put some cherries, and Chris has said, "Have a great day."
Thanks, guys.
Ollie,
really appreciate it.
Pleasure as always. Coming back on tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, guys, all it is to say is have a great day. Thank you for joining us, and we shall see you all tomorrow.
Thanks all.
TalkSport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the TalkSport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search TalkSport Fan Network.
I should be like you, Mel.